So I want to talk really quickly about momentum, creating momentum in your business, and how to actually achieve that. Um, Momentum is very difficult to come by. When you finally get momentum in your business, which you will create momentum in your business at some point. In fact, it'll happen numerous times in your business if you have longevity in it. It's about doing a consistent activity over and over and over again. And if you do that consistent activity over and over and over again, and you start measuring your results of that activity, you actually can create momentum in your business. And let me tell you, when you have momentum in your business, ooh, it feels so good. It feels so good because you're going to be like, oh my God, everything's ticking, everything's working. This feels very productive. But I really want to talk about the difference between activity and momentum. Like, what is the difference? Okay. Because there is a differentiation between the two. Activity is motion without direction. I mean, you're just doing things, right? Momentum is motion with compounding force behind it. So like in the early stages of building a business, most entrepreneurs, most leaders default to having high activity. You think you have to be in production all the time. And sometimes you find yourself being in new production all the time, like creating, recreating, and it's just a bunch of busy work. And I know this because I did it. And in fact, I sometimes find myself doing it today. It is a corporate condition that is hard to get away from if you've been working for someone for most of your career. So in business, you get in, you want your business to work well, and you want to produce the revenue so you can have the income and justify, why you left corporate in the first place. You find yourself doing all the things on the checklist that you think you're supposed to be doing. So you're posting daily if you have an online business. You're taking discovery calls. You're joining networking groups. You're updating your website. You're researching new platforms to use. You're basically, you name it, you're likely doing it too. Like I said, I know this pattern because I've done it myself. Your calendar basically stays full, and it feels good because you're in productivity, but your revenue is flat. Right? You're doing all this work, but your revenue is flat. I get it. Activity makes you feel productive because it's creating a visible output, right? You get to go back and look at what you created and you're like, oh yeah, I did this thing. This is great. But the creation of momentum, and excuse me, I've got my shoe because I'm about to go work out. The creation of momentum is going to require something completely different of you. It's going to require systems that turn today's work into next month's results, right? So corporate provides you this structure automatically. When you close a deal, the system in corporate captures the lead source, right? It updates the pipeline. It triggers the onboarding activities. It feeds data back into the next quarter strategy, right? And you benefit from this kind of compounding infrastructure without having to design it yourself, without having to think about it yourself as well, right? But when you become an entrepreneur, these feedback loops, they disappear. In fact, they were never established in the first place because you didn't establish them, right? You do the work and the data does not flow back into the system, right? So you do the activity and you produce the outcome, but you don't put the results of the output back into the system. In fact, there is no system. So the work does not compound. The work just ends, right? Structure is what allows repetition to create value for your business. Repetition without structure is just doing the same thing over and over again. Repetition with structure is what allows your business and you to learn, to refine, and to scale. So if you consider, I'm trying to think, if you were to consider a new hire, let's say you're working corporate job and your job is to bring new hires in, right? So you do the interview, You bring people in through a process. There's criteria, there's onboarding, like there's qualifying criteria to make sure you're getting the right candidates in. There's an onboarding workflow that you go through. There's shadowing periods of this new hire, maybe manager check-ins. There's an onboarding handbook, right? That you're basically dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's, and you learn from that, and you have results. Did we hire the right hire? Did we not hire the right hire? And when you realize, okay, that worked or that did not work, you go back to the drawing board, you look at all of those processes, and you improve them, right? And you go through it again, right? You're measuring the work that you're doing, and you're adjusting what you're doing, and you improve your outcomes over time, right? Well, in business ownership, you've got to do the same thing. And most people train themselves really through trial and error, and you can't really get around that. You're building a new business. There's different dynamics and experiences that you're having. You have to do trial and error, but there's no documented processes typically, right? There's no feedback mechanism that's automatically in place because you are a solopreneur. It's just you. So there's no way of checking whether it's working or not unless you have some sort of structure or system in place where you're actually measuring your output, measuring your activity and measuring your output, right? So this is why two people can do the same thing in business. Say, for instance, you go into a course or into a program and you're like, I did exactly what the leader said to do, or what my coach or mentor said to do. How come I'm not getting the same results as she? Or how come I'm not getting the same results as another colleague that did the exact same thing? Like, what's going on here, right? It's because you're not operating inside of structure that has compounding learning inside of it. That's the reason why, right? So what does a compounding structure look like? Let me see if I can give it to you. It's a repeatable, think about client generating processes, right? So like a repeatable client attraction process. You need one primary way that you're lead generating, a system that moves people from an awareness of your brand to the actual conversation they have with your brand and to close inside of your brand, right? It includes like content creation and publication. It includes some sort of criteria to measure whether this is the right lead. Well, prior to that, you've got to capture the lead, you've got to nurture the lead, you've got to have conversations with the lead, and then you're going to qualify the lead, right? Most entrepreneurs treat this as like a creative process, but really what you need to have inside is a process where you're treating it like a production process. It's a production where you are producing leads, right? So you're measuring every piece of that process. A decision model is another thing. Having a framework in place that allows you to make the right decisions and knowing whether it's even worth your time to be having conversations with certain leads that come through your lead generation model. So you also need a decision model for assessing opportunities, okay? That's the second thing. The third thing that you would want to have in place, I would say, is like a delivery model, right? How you actually deliver your work, because you don't want to constantly be in reinvention. Every engagement feels custom from scratch. If that's happening to you, then that means you don't have a good system in place to rinse and repeat your operating model. So I'm referring to delivering your programs. If you're delivering a custom program to every single person that comes through your funnel or comes through your sales process, and you're delivering something different, a different result for each person, there's no mechanism there that allows you to review and improve the work that you delivered, right? So now you're doing like all these one-off projects. Delivery should follow a structure that allows for customization within a proven container that you know works. And then number 4, you need a feedback loop, some sort of feedback system that informs the next cycle of your delivery or of your lead generation, right? So how does that get to look? This could be debriefs. So making sure that when you're building out your your year, that you have in there periods of time where you're going to review what worked, what didn't work, and make tweaks in your structure or in your framework or in your delivery process, such that the next time you roll this out, you're actually improving upon what you just went through, right? Now, let me tell you, these elements that I'm just mentioning right now, they're not sexy. In fact, they're quite boring, which is why sometimes I find myself not doing it as well. But I got to tell you, business is boring, because it is. Once you find what the exact flow is for your business and you systemize it, you'll have structure, which means you'll have freedom. And freedom is not boring. There is nothing boring about freedom, because now you get to build your business and enjoy it in the way that you had set it out to be when you first imagined it. Okay? So please don't look at structure as a constraint, as you might have felt in corporate bureaucracy. It's not. It's not. It's freedom. Structure is what allows you to stop thinking about how to do the thing and start thinking about whether the thing is working. Again, structure creates freedom. And that's what entrepreneurship is about, right? Freedom. So that's my perspective on that.